Good morning, kids, and today we're checking out a brand new video from the film theaters about how Spider-Man may be his own worst enemy. Which actually kind of makes sense, because if you remember the second Tobey Maguire movie, you know, from the first trilogy, he lost his powers because of stress. So when he stopped actually being Spider-Man for long enough, he could actually regain his powers. So it's all kind of mental. Well, he is his own worst enemy.
So, Miguel thinks that Miles is an anomaly in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, but wait, isn't the Peter Parker from the PlayStation Spider-Man games in Across the Spider-Verse?
Video game guy.
I love video games.
Another video game guy.
Are you talking to me?
And there is a Spider-Verse cameo
Spider-Man.
in the Insomniac universe.
And if Miguel comes looking for these, tell him finders keepers.
Wait, who's Miguel?
So they're definitely connected. But Miles is also Spider-Man in the PlayStation universe. So why is Spider-Verse Miles an anomaly, but PlayStation Miles isn't? Is it just because of the multiversal Spider-Bite? We need answers.
Give us those answers. Let's do it.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that does whatever a theory can. Guys, I love Spider-Man. Always have, probably always will. And a lot of that love comes from his long and storied career up on the silver screen. Little Lee was the perfect age when the Sam Raimi movies came out. And since then, though there have been a lot of ups...
Well, it's good to see you, dear boy.
It's good to see you.
And a lot of downs...
I'm not sure how I got here. Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
The Webhead has been a constant companion in the cinema. But some of the best films in the franchise have to be the Spider-Verse films from Sony Animation. Let me tell you, these things came out of nowhere.
And let's not forget the amazing freaking animation they have. Like, even though I haven't watched them, I already know about the animation quality being top freaking notch.
One expected Into the Spider-Verse to just crush it, or Across the Spider-Verse to live up to its hefty expectations. Pretty much the only thing I wasn't a fan of was that cliffhanger at the end. It's been a year, and we still don't know where the story's going. But don't you worry, Sony planned ahead and knew we'd want the conclusion to this story ASAP, and scheduled for the sequel Beyond the Spider-Verse to release last week, on March 29th, 2024. So, you can imagine my surprise and disappointment when I rolled up to the theater and realized that they've indefinitely delayed the movie.
They stole it from me, Carmine! They took it! That was today! Today!
Now, but for real, though I would have loved to see the conclusion to this story wrap up this quickly, the artists and animators should definitely take their time and make this the ending this story deserves. In a healthy working environment. But in the meantime, to tide us over, the fine folks over at Sony Animation decided to release a short film set in the Spider-Verse titled The Spider Within for free here on YouTube.com. So please, go check it out after this theory if you haven't seen it already. Short story shorter, the Spider Within sees Miles confronting a terrifying inner demon before realizing that it's all in his head. His spider sense is just cranking up the mundane threats Miles is feeling to the nth degree, reflecting real-world mood disorders like anxiety. It's a cool way to tell that story and a fun spin on that power. A nice short film and nothing more, right? Wrong! See, this isn't just some superhero nonsense. What Miles is feeling here and everything he's confronting, Shadow Demon and all, are real things that can happen in the real world. And what's even worse for Miles? This can be deadly, with the danger only amplified by Miles' very own superpowers. These visions and Miles' spider sense reaction to them could be leading him to an early grave. Pull down your masks, loyal theorists, we're thwipping into it. So first things first, let's get on the same page about what exactly happens in The Spider Within. The short film starts with Miles thinking about how his lack of superpowered work-life balance is stressing him out. Miles tries to go to bed, but before he can lay down, his spidey sense goes off. He whips around and nothing. There's no one else in the room. He tries to relax, but again is overwhelmed.
Oh man, I'm bugging.
Before long, Miles is confronted by a shadowy version of himself that pushes him into his bed, into a dream. Here, Miles and the Shadow Man fight before the Shadow turns into a giant spider and chases Miles. It explodes into a swarm of smaller spiders that cover Miles before he screams and curls up in the corner of his room. After a moment, he calms down, and all the spiders are gone. Realizing that he needs to talk to someone, Miles takes a walk with his dad, confiding about what's stressing him out, and his crush on a certain hurting somebody. And yeah, that's it. So, what happened here? Well, clearly Miles' spidey sense went haywire and created a sort of hallucination or dream that attacked him. But how did it do that? Well, to explain that, we'll need to discuss the history of the power and how it's been portrayed in film and TV. Spider sense is one of the Webhead's most iconic abilities, and it's found its way into most adaptations of the character. In the comics, spider sense was one of Peter Parker's original powers, dating all the way back to the character's debut. Since then, it's evolved into sort of a precognitive warning of impending danger, described as a tingling sensation in the back of Peter's skull.
And all it is that it can tell him that something is coming at him, but not exactly what.
Overrides his reflexes and automatically gets his body to do what it needs to keep himself and others around him out of danger. Also, apparently it's a connection to the Web of Life and Destiny multiverse that Madam Web oversees?
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
No. Get out of here. We are not talking about you. Anyway, when it comes to how the spider sense has been depicted in film and TV, they've mostly gone with it as a sort of early warning system for Peter. Though, interestingly enough, each iteration has done its own thing regarding how they show this. In the Tobey Maguire trilogy, it's sort of a slow motion effect where Spidey is suddenly aware of everything going on around him.
Yep, first example of it being used.
Wow. Great reflexes.
In Andrew Garfield's films, it's like a high-pitched ringing that comes up as Peter notices something or does some slapstick comedy. Though The Amazing Spider-Man 2 does have a pretty slick slow-mo sequence. The MCU really downplayed the ability as just the Peter tingle.
Please do not start calling it my Peter tingle.
And initially portrayed it as Spidey just getting goosebumps. That being said, No Way Home really amped it up, allowing—
Oh yeah, because of this scene! He tries to grab the box, but it's just like, nope. Like Spider Sense is playing Keep Away with Dr. Strange. That's still funny as all heck, and I've never watched that movie.
His body to move on its own without Peter's spirit in a more comedic scene, while also taking advantage of the classic dolly zoom effect to make it really unsettling in a more serious moment. And meanwhile, most of the animated series incorporated some flashing imagery and high-pitched musical notes.
Spider sense.
Or lines around Spidey's head. The Spider-Verse films again lean into the spider sense being a sort of early warning system for most of its spider people.
I thought I was the only one.
And the power is visually represented by those same wavy lines. And despite how much I hate to say it, the power also seems to tie into the whole Web of Life and Destiny thing by letting spider people identify each other through just their senses, whether or not they're in costume or even from—
It's like pheromones.
The same universe.
You think you're the only people who've got to come here?
However, this Spider Within short portrays spider sense unlike any of the other big film or TV adaptations.
Peacock is
we'll be right back. And we're back. Let's go.
It to an anxiety disorder, specifically with panic attacks. If you don't know, anxiety disorders are exactly what they sound like. They're a type of mental disorder that make those who suffer from them feel uncontrollable fear or unease. And there are several different types: generalized anxiety, hypochondria, social anxiety, separation anxiety. You get the idea. Meanwhile, panic attacks—
Thankfully, a lot of people only suffer from like the first one, which is just a general anxiety.
Attacks can be the result of anxiety disorders that involve, well, intense panic. It's straight up in the name. They feel like you're dying, like you're having a heart attack. It's pretty awful stuff. Get this, throughout this short, we see Miles exhibit several symptoms of anxiety disorders connected to his spider sense. Feeling nervous, restless, or tense. When he's trying to relax in his room, he can't keep still or stop thinking about his problems. So, check there. Avoidance behaviors. Miles self-isolates in his room instead of watching movies with his dad. So, check. Trouble concentrating on anything other than his present worry. Well, those worries prevent him from watching movies or even listening to music.
You always seem so distracted. It's very
Miles, you're late. Again.
Check again. Having a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom, other than the obvious precognitive effect of the spider sense keeping Miles safe in battle, it also triggers during this short when there's no danger around him at all.
Yeah, there's literally nothing. But just like...
So again, big check there. Sweating? Check. Breathing rapidly or hyperventilating? Another check. Trouble sleeping? massive check. There are even some reports where anxious individuals can feel like there's a tingling, prickling, or crawling sensation across their whole body, just like we see with Miles. Check again. In fact, despite seeming like something completely fictional or pulled from a horror comic book, Miles seeing that shadowy version of himself that turns into a giant spider is something that could be a symptom of anxiety disorders. One of the potential side effects is known as sleep paralysis, and this can be seriously traumatic for individuals suffering from it. Basically, this is a state while falling asleep or waking up during which a person is fully conscious but can't move their body at all. Their mind is awake, but their body is asleep. This can happen because of a weird glitch in the brain. During the period of deep sleep known as rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, there's heightened activity in the brain, which is partially the cause of vivid dreams and nightmares. At the same time, during REM sleep, your body usually enters muscle atonia, basically paralysis, so you don't flail around and hurt yourself during said dreams. You're supposed to sleep through this whole thing, but if your brain crosses some wires as you enter or exit REM sleep, you'll be paralyzed but conscious and still experiencing those vivid dreams, just while you're awake and laying in bed. It's wild stuff, and sleep paralysis like this can cause super vivid hallucinations, including sleep paralysis demons that loom over you while you can't move, sometimes putting pressure on your chest so that you struggle to breathe. Yeah, sleep paralysis demons. That's what they're actually called. And again, wouldn't you know it, but all of this is exactly what we see happening to Miles in this short film. Miles lays down and tries to get some rest, clearly trying to calm down and go to sleep. But shortly into it, Miles looks up and sees this shadowy version of himself at the foot of his bed. This particular shadowy figure in The Spider Within reminded me a lot of stories of Shadow People or the Hat Man. Fairly common variations of these sleep paralysis demons that just look like shadowy human silhouettes. So he's clearly terrified, even with—
You know, I like a horror movie based on the Hat Man. Could be pretty interesting.
With his spider sense, Miles can't move at all, like he's paralyzed. We see him trying to move his fingers, his feet, looking around as the demon Miles approaches him from the ceiling, pressing his hand into Miles's chest as he hyperventilates, struggling to breathe. All exactly like a sleep paralysis demon. So, okay. In this short, Miles's spider sense is a representation and amplification of his anxiety, and it sort of supercharges a panic attack. That's a really cool and unique way to depict the superpower, but why does this matter in the long run? Well, this could be very bad news for Miles, because the long-term effects of this sort of anxiety can be deadly. Now, I want to be very clear up front that if you are ever having a panic attack like Miles does in this short film, even though it sucks, you will be okay. It might feel like you're having a heart attack, like you can't breathe, like you're dying, but you're not going to. That's important, and I can't stress it enough. That being said, if left untreated, the long-term effects of these sorts of panic attacks and general anxiety disorder can lead to heart problems. These include increased blood pressure, decreased heart rate variability, or a rapid heart rate, all of which can lead to potentially serious complications down the line. None of that would be good news for Miles, and given the severity of the panic attack we see in The Spider Within, I worry that the kid is a ticking time bomb, waiting for his heart to just give up the ghost.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Now, I already hear some of you typing away in the comments, letting us know that because of his powers as Spider-Man, Miles has enhanced durability, endurance, and a healing factor that should protect him from these sorts of long-term effects. And that's—
well, why? That would make a whole lot of sense. The thing is that a heart, regardless of your healing factor, is still extremely vulnerable. If the heart stops, there's no healing factor that can revive it. It's not injured or damaged, it just stopped.
Correct, but I think we also need to consider that this isn't normal anxiety or a normal panic attack. It's super anxiety and a super panic attack, wildly amplified by his spider sense, an ability so powerful it can take control of Spider-Man's body and apparently transcend the multiverse. And given that Spider-Man has died from the effects of illness or poison in the comics before, don't count this out for Miles. His superpowers are killing him in the long run. So, is that it? Is Miles doomed to die a slow death as his heart gradually gives out from the weight of this anxious pressure of suffering panic attacks whenever the balancing act of his personal and superhero lives becomes too much? Thankfully, no. Though I would hesitate to say that an anxiety disorder is outright curable, they are treatable. Firstly, there are some medications that can help ease many of the side effects of anxiety disorders, but even without that, there are plenty of ways to fight anxiousness. Seeking professional help from a therapist is a great way to handle anxiety, especially especially ones that specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is a wildly simplified explanation, but CBT is an action-oriented form of therapy where a professional helps a patient identify the problems they want to solve and give them specific strategies on confronting said problems. For example, if a patient is, say, suddenly feeling overwhelmed by the great responsibility of leading a double life as a student and a superhero that leads to panic attacks, a therapist might help the patient develop ways of recognizing when those panic attacks are starting and then grounding themselves so the panic attacks don't completely overwhelm them. Then they can wait the panic out in a healthy way and then continue on with their day. But even just talking with your loved ones about your problems is a great way to start the journey of overcoming your anxiety. And you want to know the best part? We see Miles take those first steps in the short itself. Remember, the whole thing ends with Miles confiding in his dad about his problems, the mundane stress in his life from homework and girl troubles. And what's more, Miles is actually probably in the best position a superhero with anxiety can be in. He knows for a fact that there are other people like him out there facing the same struggles. And depending on where Beyond the Spider-Verse goes, he'll even have access to an entire multiverse of spider people, friends, colleagues, and even a professional Spider-Man therapist that he can confide in and talk through his problems with. This is actually something I really connected with when I first watched Into the Spider-Verse. The idea that you're not alone in your struggles. That's been one of the main themes of the series. In Into the Spider-Verse, after Miles loses his Uncle Aaron, all the other spider people check in on him. They empathize with the loss and help Miles through it. They know what it's like. They let him know that he isn't the only one wearing the mask, so to speak, having to move forward with his everyday life and the great responsibility thrust onto his shoulders despite this unimaginable pain. And the same thing happens with his dad. Miles lost an uncle in this movie, but remember, Jefferson lost a brother too. And Miles and his dad are able to help each other through that shared pain, just like Jefferson does in this short with Miles's anxiety, all by just asking what's bothering him and listening. The first step in Miles treating his condition. And that's the lesson that we should be taking away from the spider within. Whether you're stressed about your homework, or have anxiety about someone you like, or feel like you have the weight of the world on your superpowered shoulders, there are people out there who are willing to listen, willing to share that load with you, to lift you up when you fall down. All you gotta do is take the leap. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. If you want to... Well, everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below. And I'll see all you kids next time when we flick on. Peace out.